Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
we have just watched the new sensation that's on Disney Plus, the
Uh-oh.
She-Hulk. The new animation is in place, the new story, new history on this thing. No other Star Trek stuff to knock it off its course, like what happened with Miss Marvel, having Miss Marvel go up against Obi-Wan and got
I mean, no.
crushed.
Oh, you mean no good alternative? We're stuck.
So, oh, that hurts. So, yeah, so we have the first episode of the She-Hulk, and it starts, and we don't know where we're at in this story, right? Wait a second. Do you want me? I'll give you a quick overview, and you can, try to go into what you want to go into, right? So we get this story where she's in there, and they hint that she's a She-Hulk already, right? They hint about it, and I'm saying, is she the She-Hulk because they talking about her hulking out because she she's related to Bruce Banner, and somehow everyone knows that. I didn't know that, but then she turns the camera like the John Burns, not his entire run, his first 8 issues, where she would talk to camera, like the George Burns show and any other shows that breaks the fourth wall, right? So you have this aspect, and then she goes into the history. You don't actually hear the history, but we get to see how she gains the ability to turn into the She-Hulk. We get the little history of her with the Hulk because we've already seen it in the trailer of him training her. We get all of that stuff, the banter between the two of them as cousins, which is more played like siblings. In the comic books, they don't really get into conflict outside of the time when the Hulk is mindless again and the Avengers and FF are fighting the Hulk to stop him. But every other time between 78, I guess, when she was first introduced, to about 80, no, even past that, to about the She-Hulk's 60th issue of her second series, where they have this, she kind of becomes like a raging monster, but she still has some intellect and she wants to fight the Hulk. But every other time she helped the Professor Hulk when he was in the bad way, during fighting the leader. She was there for him when he was in the hospital. So there's many points where she would kind of shed the, like the Raquel Welch and like the big starlet style, to be what she was to Bruce, her cousin, someone she cared about. And you had that connection. But they kind of do the sibling banter of each other trying to top each other. And then she goes back to work for reasons we'll get into it later. And then we get a hint of what I think I was talking about in the video I did a while ago, where it kind of takes from a Chris Claremont story where Shield is trying to be a lawyer, and Titania comes to mess with her, and that's what we get, and that's where we starting. So we're starting off there. What are your thoughts on the show?
Uh, I thought that was a pretty good I thought that was a pretty good overview. Like I said, if you read John Burns' run on She-Hulk, which is, well, not let me not say John Burns' run, but if you read the sensational She-Hulk run, this is pretty much that. So if you enjoyed that, you'll more than likely enjoy this. They're playing this. This is a comedy. It's a career woman comedy at that. So we're going to see a lot of those same. We'll see a lot of those conventions and trophies that come along with it. So if you saw Working Girl, or you watched Ally McBeal, any of that type of stuff, there'll be a whole bunch of those boxes ticked over there. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good first start for the series. They're not. I think they have unlike Ms. Marvel. I think they are just coming out. Look, this is a comedy, and we're not really going to play this as a superhero show. This is going to be a comedy. We know our demographic is going to be primarily women, and if you enjoy it for whatever laughs that you can get out of it, fine. Other than that, this may not be for you, but at least this one is pretty centered in terms of when I'm watching it. It's like, okay, I can see what these guys are trying to do, and they are executing on that.
For me, even though I guess it's the way they're going as a comedy itself, as they kind of rush through the origin, whereas this is the first one out of all of the other shows where the origin of certain characters. I guess like the Haley character in the Hawkeye, they have this long 6 issue arc to get to them to their full power. And this one, they kind of rush through to get to the attorney at law. And for me, they kind of just, it's just like, it's just okay. It's just like, and because even, well, not, it's more like the later run of post the Steve Gerber where they just had gags in it, but none of the stuff landed. And like some of the stuff of being pushing boundaries, which you kind of try to do with a comedy instead of just doing like the, what's that thing? Like the freaking WandaVision, where the jokes don't really land. You got the cutesy stuff. Even what's the name had some, Ally McBeal had some, at least some teeth to it, with what they were doing. So it's kind of like you can't do nothing. These are superheroes. Like someone who described Thor: Love and Thunder. I asked the person how do you like it, and he asked me how I liked it. And I was like, it's just really wacky. So I just kind of tried to enjoy it for what it's worth. I said, what did you think of it?
No, Thor: Love and Thunder, that was like, hey, if you could get through a beat without a yuck, and I do mean a yuck coming up, you were lucky. But they played that, they didn't play it for laughs. They played it for literally yucks at every turn. This, the best I can do is that, those type of things, because those are the ones that I saw in terms of those working or career woman things, like Ally McBeal or Working Girl. Those may not necessarily be the best examples because those were pretty good. Those were pretty good shows, but that's the stuff that I watched. I'm thinking of all the stuff that everything I watched was like really well written, like The Devil Wears Prada, that type of stuff. So I happen to see those type of things, which is definitely not in my wheelhouse, but it was well written. They executed. So I'm like, okay, look, at the very least, I can see some semblances of those going on. Let's see how you execute. I also appreciated the fact that from the very first episode, okay, this is not going to be a superhero show. It's just they're telling you. She's like, hey, Hulk is telling her, you're a superhero now. No, I'm going to go back here and be an attorney. Okay, so we get the whole thing, and what is it? She goes to the bar, and when she goes to the bar, she meets, and the girls all, oh no, you all make her up, give her clothing, shoes, and all this other type of stuff. Everybody's got a phone for her, and then when she comes out, of course, there's I don't know. I have been to bars. I don't know, at these bars, at least in TV, the bars always have 3 or 4 guys who look like they're potential rapists to any woman. Doesn't matter if she's hot, doesn't matter how attractive she is. And, these guys are just always there. I'm in the bars, like, I guess I'm never like the bouncer watching the bar or anything of that nature, but I'm like, good grief, is it really that bad? Is it really that bad?
I think they pulled I don't know. It's kind of tough because it'll just do the thing of, that's the thing, going for everything it's like my first script. We're going to have, that's what I'm saying. That's my point of bringing up in the Hulk and the She-Hulk. Like they don't get even close to fighting, until 91, from 78 to 91. There's no real fight where they just decide that let's just mix it up because we're both Hulks. Like I think Byrne was pointing out is like, with the first She-Hulk issue, even though people won't say it's going to be high art, you had Bruce Banner in there, and it's one of the few stories where he doesn't get knocked over and turned into the Hulk in the issue. So it's like going against type, where it's just like, well, we spend all this money, let's have them fight and do some things and that sort of stuff. And I'm just like,
they always do that. They love to do that stuff, especially if it's a female character who's taken after the male character, because that establishes, oh, she's competent, she can fight him to a standstill, blah, blah, blah. Same stuff when they had Superman on Supergirl. They never did it in the comic because, the Incredible Hulk in the comic in comparison to the She-Hulk is exponentially stronger. And so it just didn't make it would have never made any sense for the two of them to fight because you're asking for the She-Hulk to get demolished by the Hulk. And then what does that do for her as a character? The Hulk getting beat by the She-Hulk doesn't do anything for him, and him putting her to remind everybody, he's the strongest one there is. We knew that already. We didn't need to see them fight for that. But the show, they were driving to that point, from the whole training, from the whole training thing. But look, I'm gonna let's see who can one up who, that type of stuff. So that was just coming down the pike at the end of the day. I wasn't surprised by it.
But that's the point of not being, doing something that you don't expect. Like that's the thing. I'm not saying that, you want to decide that. That's the thing. That's why you have the arc in the original series where she retained her mind to an extent, but she was like a more rougher version of herself in the Savage She-Hulk. And then she goes through something, I think around issue, after 8, it has to be like 10 or something like that, where she goes through a little bit of some sort of struggle. Like she's like She-Hulk, you see her on the floor. I think it's Michael Golden cover where she's dying, and the next thing you know, she comes out of it and she's like, I like being a She-Hulk, this, that, and the other. So it's like they had an arc of the control, not this thing where the blood is like doing something special where it heals the Hulk's arm. It's just her blood is just funky.
Like I said, those are the same boxes they always check with female characters. They always do. There's got to be something special about them in comparison, especially if they're taking after the male character. They always do it. So I expected it to come. I just expected that to come down. Does it make any sense? Hell no, it doesn't make any sense. The Hulk is supposed to be able to regenerate of his own ability, and for some reason, this Hulk in the comic, he gets hit, he regenerates. He's supposed to have regeneration like Wolverine, but exponentially better. Here he's walking around with the cast until he finds her blood, and it's always the same nonsense at the end of the day. But they got to somehow establish her. The whole idea is we can use him to establish her, so they always do it.
Well, that going into the Peter David regeneration thing, I don't that stuff. I don't want to get into that stuff for any live action, because it just kind of his out on him fighting Wolverine instead of saying the whole skin is just too hard. That's just what it was. But when you get to going back to the fighting part, like I don't want to gloss over the fact that in that thing, because of their relationship is the reason why they didn't fight. When you get to issue 60, where she's losing kind of control and she's kind of challenging Bruce Banner because he's the Banner Hulk, different from the Professor Hulk, where he's like, oh, you're just like all well adjusted now and this sort of thing. And it's just kind of like, like we get into a fight, which is just like the sibling. When they didn't have that relationship, they had no rivalry. And that's the thing that's getting kind of lost. And the relationships was changing, whereas like in the real comic, obviously her father, her parents now, because she just had her father, and her father initially for a few issues was the not totally the J. Jonah Jameson, but he had some issues with the She-Hulk. And then where they ended off, because I think he was kind of forgotten in the Avengers when he shows up in the later Byrne run, he just still has, he grew up, he had a daughter who's a regular girl. And he's kind of had some issues. I think they're just going to truncate all that for all this new dynamic of, hey, Bruce and her have this back and forth thing where it's just like, I don't know. I guess you can have some of that with your cousins, but if you grow up with them, but usually that turns into like where my father was with his, that's, I guess, his uncle. But yeah, I just think that they're just going as you already just mentioned, they're going to too many simple, easy things. Obviously, it's a precursor. They're just getting origin because they're not really. That's why they don't like doing origins, because they're not really good at them. So we're doing the Fantastic Four, but it won't be retelling the origin. Yeah, because we know we can't trust you to do it. So yeah.
But then I didn't see it as an origin. I didn't see it as an origin. I just found that as a way that they could get the Hulk in there and then kind of explain the reason why we weren't going to see him anymore. So I feel like, hey, okay, he comes in here, and then they can answer some of the, some of. I guess some of the fanboy, fangirl questions. Well, what about this? What about that? They can take 15 minutes, to do that stuff, and then they don't have to worry about it. But as origins go, that was I don't know, that was pretty dumb. I just could not say, oh no, you're the one way that she could have become the She-Hulk is, oh, your blood. that's and it just happens. It's just it's so forced at the end of the day. And the original, I mean, the original one wasn't that really big. It's like what was it, like 2 pages in the comics? It wasn't that big of a deal to execute, but it would have still worked better than what they did here.
Yeah, I mean, you go in and at least it's it's not just it's just sort of the Hulk's blood is doing, but it wasn't just the Hulk's blood. It's her blood that's doing something, and it's like you take all of
Because
the you take
because
all
she's
of the
special.
things out of it. No, it's like you take all of the necessary. I mean, I get it. You're trying to get Attorney at Law to just do that, but that's the thing. You could have still done the same thing you've done in the same time frame, just with some sort of gaps in this retelling of her history. They didn't have to just say, "Hey, I don't have that problem. I can change back. I can just do whatever I want. All right, I'm going back to work." And it's just like, all right, so now you can't have her get mad. You can't really have her flip out because you already said she's adjusted. Oh, no, no, no. That's just when she really gets mad, then she just turns. It's just like you said she's adjusted. So anytime she turns, she's basically the weapon. So a guy comes and pinches her on the butt and she turns into the She-Hulk. Then next thing you know, she can't punch the guy because she's already in control. She's supposed to call the cops. But you can't do that, boy. If you keep her where you don't clear it up, but I guess they're saying, well, if she's in the courtroom, they can't try to clear everything up so they can get their courtroom drama, to get their nutty stuff that's going on in here, and ultimately it just was a little soft for my taste. And I'm saying with the sort of gags, the gags that kind of landed in the both runs of Burns thing was kind of pushing the envelope and having some fun with the stuff and finding ways as far as, because it wasn't just comics that, he was more kind of going through doing gags on some of the stuff that he would do, and sort of not the actual character, but kind of how the creators handle the genre. So it'd be more about, hey, why she makes with Blake Tower, who's a very handsome white guy, not the black guy that was in Daredevil. And she sees him and she has like a girl moment where she kind of gets lightheaded. And then she turns around and she says, hey, he's like, hey, what happened? And she's kind of trying to play it off. And then next thing you know, he says, we said, all right, so, you come, it's great having you here. We're going to district. I got to get home to my wife. And she's like, what? Burn. And she's like going, climbing out of the thing. And he's like, well, when did you get married? He's like, oh, I think I just thought about it. So it's kind of like being in the I don't want them to be in the TV show type of deal, but I'm saying just try to push the envelope some. To like even the one where he did the Demi Moore thing, that's before like all the other people were spoofing the Demi Moore thing. So it's like you can push the envelope. There's a lot of stuff going on in Congress that you can go to, like really try to push the envelope. Don't just try to, make fun of the comic book things. I mean, they did one, which I guess worked out as far as the age old question about Captain America and that sort of thing. So that one, it wasn't necessarily funny, but it landed. So I can give them that. But otherwise,
I found that to be really weird. I'm going back. I was just I said, this has to be some like fanboy thing over here where these guys have really watched these movies too many times and too closely. And they're like, there's no way Captain America could, this. And I'm like, but there's all this off-scene stuff that could have happened. There's just no way for you to really believe that. But of course, you got a whole bunch of time on your hands. I guess you're not dating regularly. And so you can keep going along with this. The fact that anybody would, that it could get that far regarding Captain America, I just thought was dumb. Because with the exception of Tony Stark, we don't really see anybody doing too much of anything.
Well, I think they took it as far as going as the virgin aspect. I mean, as far as the being in the war and all that stuff, it's
Bruce Banner was able to tell her the exact year when Captain America lost his virginity. That was weird to me.
That's
I'm
really
like, why
bad.
the hell?
That's definitely bad.
Why the hell would you have this information at the end of the day? It just makes no
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, you know, I agree. I'm just saying, like the idea. I think I wasn't going that route. I was thinking that, you know, I like that Cap had, you know, a bunch of different girlfriends in the regular series, and post this, he didn't really have time for it. It was kind of like he's on the run, this, that, and the other. But they did take it too far. I mean, they did land it, but yeah, as you pointed, though, as you pull back the onion, you start to look and say, well, that's a little too far, asking too much questions, and Hulk knowing about it. That means the Avengers are sitting around saying, look, dude, we know you didn't have it. Like, who? But it doesn't make any sense, you know.
You know, it's like Captain America. Why would you think this guy was a virgin? This dude was over. I mean, at the very least, he could have been bagging chicks when he was over there doing that vaudeville stuff, and they had him over there selling war bonds. You know, he was still on stage. I'm pretty certain he could have been, you know, pulling chicks at that point. So it just, you know, for me, it just doesn't make. Well, in my whole thing, that girl who kissed him and what's her name got upset about it. They still got it on at some point, but that's only because that's just me. At the end of the day, he was like, "What?" No, she's like, "Okay, she's not looking. All right, yeah, we're gonna finish this, but you know, but don't worry. This didn't mean anything. My heart still belongs to her. Blah blah blah. Okay."
My thing of I really wasn't too keen on the ending with Peggy, and especially Peggy. Peggy is lived many a life before they got the. Well, I guess they're kind of Xing out the TV series. So anyway, but yeah, I think this stuff for me, it just it got somewhere place to grow if it's gonna grow. But most of the time with these Marvel shows, it kind of stays on that plane. It doesn't like where you look at maybe the first couple episodes of Cheers, you're like, this is okay. This is kind of my my Taxi guys got another show and it hasn't landed yet. Whereas you look at, like, I guess what's that thing Family Ties, where you look at that first season, the timing and everything is there, but then when you get to the end of the first season of Cheers, they get the whole Sam and Diane thing going on. You can see the thing just start to rev and the characters kind of really get there. So, but the Marvel thing, they seem to be like really locked in to doing this arc that they do. So it doesn't really allow for TV to become what TV becomes. Because many people look at TV and they look at the jump at the shark part. They don't look at the part of characters getting more comfortable, like finding different arcs within the relationship. So saying, like, going from something as simple as Family Matters, where Urkel is the annoying character, and then at the same time he becomes the character that connects with all these other characters, and different sort of relationships come out of that, of like Edo and what's the name, and it goes for every show, like the relationship between how Fonzie and Richie start out, where Fonzie's like the guy, the kind of the street dude that he comes to for a couple things, where they're brothers as the series go. And when you watch those series, it's kind of tough when, Ron Howard moves on to movies and directing movies, because we lost that dynamic. So the idea of how letting a television show, because not all of them are like the Cosby or Andy Griffin, these shows that hit the ground running. A lot of shows are ones that kind of build up steam and they start to get comfortable, and the characters kind of, like the actors can really find their character and explore different things, where you can look in the Night Court. John Larroquette isn't the character that starts. John Larroquette was the guy going back to, he couldn't get a date, to the guy who was bagging everything. And Terry Hatcher was one of his girls. Like he was bagging everything, where the character at the start, could barely, like he was very stiff and whatnot. So I just think, with this dynamic they do with these, giving, I don't know, I guess he's trying to keep it special and keep you interested in between movies. But I think doing TV where you have something that could be a TV show for a decent amount of time, as you said, Ally McBeal or something like that, let it grow. Like they're trying to build up this banter early on. Well, we got to really get to who these characters are, instead of saying, hey, go Hulk out. Go get out there and Hulk out. And it's like, okay. Come on, we gotta get to what the meat of it, because they don't have a story on the courtroom drama. Because before she speaks, I think that's what it was. Yeah, that was a Chris Claremont story. Which I mean, but at the same time was a okay story. But it's like now seeing it being done here, where she's about to do it, and then in I don't know what's the name, looks like the old school hooker slash homeless woman in Titania. It's like, okay, it looks like you see the actress, yes, but then she's got this body outfit. It's just like, what is going on here?
And that character, that was Titania.
I believe it was.
Good grief. Okay. I don't know. Are we going to see any more, or was that it? She gets knocked out, and they're like, "Oh well, there was anybody who was interested in the character."
But she's
too much money.
But she's not really. She's enough. She was a. I mean, we could also call Spider-Man around to go slap her around if we need to. So she's a character that kind of outside of her kicking ass and taking names in Secret Wars. After Spider-Man smacks him around, it's kind of over for her.
For the She-Hulk, she was She-Hulk. I mean, that was She-Hulk's like only big defeat that anybody knew of at that point, and that was like a singular moment in for her. So that did. I mean, that was a big deal fight. Not necessarily because it was executed well in Secret Wars, okay, but because of the ramifications of it that came out of it later. So for her, if that's her, and she's just going to get one-shotted at the end of the day, I'm like, all right. But their usage of villains is always very questionable, because like, okay, is this going to be a proper antagonist for this person? Or no, this is just going to be like fodder. We don't care. Just put them in there, get rid of them, that sort of stuff.
The hard part with her, I mean, there's no real, outside of having one where she loses, and then the next time they meet up, like She-Hulk is knocking her all around the place, and then in the end, when she comes back again, she does the gag of the story, because it's him and Alan Davis that, hey, but the She-Hulk, she shows that she's no real. I mean, She-Hulk was stronger at that point anyway, but they got her out of somehow start doing the girl thing and saying, oh, she can live what. I don't know, same amount of tons as Spider-Man. Was it 10 tons at first? It's like the handbook was such that first, especially the first one was like, let's take away stuff from people that we dislike. This character isn't worth anything, so you get no power. Thor, we don't like you anymore. You're below. There's no class 100. You're below these other guys. But I don't. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it could grow. I just don't know that they're gonna. If this is gonna be like Loki, where it gets another season, and it's only,
it might.
It's not gonna go through the same thing where we watch. What was it like when we watched? We didn't watch it together, but we watched Strange New World, Star Trek, where we get to see them really try to build these characters from the first episode, and they have a strong banter already, where it's like it's just going to center around her hulking out, and that's in the dating stuff we see. Get out there. There's other dating shows that really put it down. I understand that you're Disney and you're going to this, but they're cursing, so they have some curses in there. They're trying to slip in some curse words to let this actress, who is she is a good character for TV and film. She kind of is someone that brings you in as a talent. So she's not someone that can't carry a show. Just meet the level of the talent. And
you can. They're not doing any of that. They're not going to do any of that. But I do think this will probably get a second season, because it looks like they're going for junk food. I'm talking like, late night ice cream, cookies and milk, cookies and milk, roll up in a blanket, got an hour or two on your hands, that type of stuff. It just looks like they're going for junk food. And to be honest, who doesn't like junk food? So
no, but
that's what I'm looking at this.
There's the stuff like, was it like, I was talking to someone about like
This
License
is
to
the cheap.
Drive. License to
This is the.
Drive is a fun movie. It has some stuff where it's the story wise you just go in there and you just have fun with it, right? It has some stock stuff, but it's like it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and you watch it and like they push boundaries. They do stuff they're not supposed to do in the story. There's a lot of crazy nutty. Like I was watching, I told this because someone saying how hard it is to watch some of the old movies now, and I was saying I was watching License to Drive, and there's a scene where they take Heather Graham and so it's not they want to pick up some girls, so they put Heather Graham in the trunk. And I was watching it, and my father. And this, I'm like, I'm 18. Let's say I knew everything, but I wouldn't do anything this crazy. But fathers don't turn off being fathers. So it's on, and I'm watching it, and he sees Heather Graham going to the trunk, and I just started driving, and he says, "Beatty, you can't put anyone in the trunk. They can't breathe. You will not be able to breathe in the trunk." So just in case, but it's like that sort of thing. But they pushed boundaries. They did some risque stuff. They had some fun, and that's all I'm asking. It's saying you're trying to have her cursed. You're trying to have her be on a little bit of the edge. Then hey, find your jokes where you can. Be topical. Go out there outside of comic books, because you're going into comic books and trashing them. Look, that's the other thing. You're going to the She-Hulk. There's She-Hulk, and that's the thing. I got into what was it? Something with Rob Liefeld on the She-Hulk, because in that thing, Bernard did a what's the name? A homage of Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, like that shot of the cover of 300. He did the front page of Spider-Man in that exact same pose, just his style. Then he pulled out a later picture where Spider-Man is in spider pose, and like, that's making fun of McFarlane. I was like, what's the joke? There's no joke here. Bernard's always put him in spider pose outside of Marvel saying you can't, don't do it. And that's what Marvel would do from Stan Lee with Ditko. But ultimately the test of it was when you had Frank Miller, Walter Simonson, Wendy Pinn from the ElfQuest, Adam Hughes, I think a couple editors, all that did issue 50, all coming up with a different arc of the doing the She-Hulk, and they all made fun of themselves. Like the Frank Miller thing, he makes fun of Sin City in there, and at the same time, what was it? I think someone who pointed that page out was like, "Is Byrne making fun of Miller here?" I was like, "No, that's Miller understanding that they weren't trying to tear down the genre. They were tearing down their own approaches to it." I think Walter Simonson had Doom, She-Hulk with a hammer, and Doom's all over there. And then I think, Dave Gibbons. Dave Gibbons did kind of the toughest one, because he did a She-Hulk page, but he did it where the characters didn't understand the U.S. idioms. So they kind of talk with the British Cockney and that sort of thing. But they're in New York City. It's clearly superheroes flying all around. And the She-Hulk points out that, oh no, basically Dave Gibbons was taking the piss out of Watchmen. There's a scene when they're in the street with the newspaper, and there's a couple of lines in there that I think Alan Moore was kind of wrong with how the people were taught, how New Yorkers kind of talk, that sort of thing. So it's like this book where they were kind of taking it and not tearing down comic books and comic thing. They were kind of their approaches to the book. And that's the thing where he's like, go out there and find something to have fun with, to spoof out there. And I guess we'll see how much they do with the talking to camera, but that goes back to like George Burns, and even before that, I guess the Greek chorus. We had someone in the theater kind of talking to the audience at the same time, so breaking that fourth wall, that sort of, because I believe originally a theater term. So try to do something else, but it's already locked in, so I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, it just saw for me. I said it 3 million times. And I just wanted this to be, the animation looks better, but at the same time, what if they didn't have the Hulk in there for most of that issue. With the She-Hulk would have been better because we can see the stubble on the Hulk. It's so crazy. You can see the stubble like they're doing all this work. It's like we can see where the money wasn't going to in the earlier versions of the series because no one complained about the Hulk. We only complained about the She-Hulk. So, but they upped the ante. It's less to complain about. Well, it didn't really have much to complain about, but it's just interesting seeing the Hulk and seeing how well he's animated. And yeah, I guess that's it for me. I just was, I guess I was expecting more, but this is what they do. They kind of do, all right, let's go back to Iron Man, right? They didn't do the exact thing. They changed Iron Man's character, but at the same time, they gave you something with heart. Do you feel like you're getting that from this? Are you there?
Well, no, but I mean,
we can't just accept that. Then we can't just. It's okay. I would say it's okay.
I've just accepted that the TV stuff has been so hit or miss. It's been like barely hit, big miss, complete and utter trash. At the very least, this one.
Menace returns.
At the very least, this one. I mean, this was like, okay, if they do the same thing they did with Moon Knight, where the first episode of Moon Knight I thought was great setup, and then the second episode was like the same as the first, and then we got an episode where Moon Knight didn't appear at all. If they go that particular route, then yeah, okay, we're in the same boat. But at the very least, this one is showing you what you're getting. Moon Knight, I thought was going to be a superhero show. It turned out Moon Knight was not that, and Moon Knight's getting a second season because there were a whole bunch of people who enjoyed it because they never had any idea who the hell this character was, and they didn't care. They liked what they saw. So these guys are like, hey, we can make these critiques, but at the end of the day, they're driving for a certain audience, and if they get it, fine. This is going to be working woman junk food. That's it. And She-Hulk, I'm pretty certain they'll get everything together, but I don't disagree with what they went for. They're trying to go for what they had with during the sensational She-Hulk, where she's just a big green Barbie doll at the end of the day. So, go for that. I mean, I think that'll be better than the stuff that they decided to go for in the comics when they decided to make her into roid rage. Roid rage. Oh, you're just waiting for the gonads to drop on her. That one. But this right here, I mean, it's a light step, it's a light touch. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything bigger with this. They're just not. I mean, they got a competent actress in the lead. Okay, I think from the people turned in, looks like they got a good cast. But they already started off doing the same stuff. Literally, when the guy made the point, she's giving her a closing, and this guy's an attorney, and he's like, "Well, I'm not too sure about this." And it's her, and what is it? Her paralegal, and both of them are telling him, shut up, get out of here." And he's like, "Oh, you want to listen to the advice of your paralegal over me, an established attorney?" Because you're a man. We don't got to listen to you. What the hell can you do? This is a female show, and on female shows, male advice is blah. And so it's hitting all of that particular stuff. If they were going to do something more, okay, if they were going to do something more with that, they would have they wouldn't have had those particular things in it. We wouldn't have had the whole one-upsmanship with Bruce, because Bruce should clearly be outclassing her in every single way. The only thing that really should have been different, and that was established in the comics, is that she maintains herself when she makes the transformation. That would have been the only thing. So the fact that, okay, yeah, we're going to bypass all 15 years that Bruce had to go through, that's cool. That was from the comic, that was from the comics anyway. But all the other stuff, needless, necessary. The fight, needless, unnecessary. So they're showing us what they're going to do. And I believe, what's the famous quote that people love to bandy around these days? When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. They're showing us who they are. I think I'm going to believe them the first time as opposed to the 5th episode.
Well, yeah, there's definite truth to that. They're giving us this. They're going to be some, gags about comic book history of stuff that she should have no idea. I don't know why there's a. I mean, it's like the Marvel, the world that they live in is like the Watchmen world, where everybody knows everything about every hero. They know that Doctor Strange picked the picked the actual thing that brought things back to where they were, but didn't erase the blip for some reason. That was the only way to go. But then now people are even questioning that. And it's like, how does everybody get to know all this stuff? How does there is there is we've only seen the Avengers. The Avengers are fighting stuff. I mean, they're in New York, but it's just like at the same time, outside of that's a freaking TV show. It's like you don't get to see like doing the gag of, Captain America's ass. Like, unless she's like, I got to meet him and I saw it in person. I don't get it. I don't know that you know what it was. You might be more interested, like most people, like, I don't know. You see the people going crazy over Thor all the time now, I mean, obviously they like Chris Evans, but it's like you see women that when they're going in to see these Thor things, they're going crazy, and I hear them talking about it. In real life, you can't just go through the comic book history like we have. Like, it's me and you who know all the footnotes to all these bits. There gotta be something where people don't know anything, or else we would have seen her with the Avengers hanging out and doing stuff. But that's the thing. I think this kind of having it like the Watchmen, where people know where the original Night Owl's house is and stuff like that. Or I guess he was set up at the same time, but it's just kind of this thing where we kind of giving you like the Watchmen world. We know we live with heroes and we know all their history and their specials on them and this, that, and the other. Where it's like that kind of stuff didn't really come up that much. In truth, it would be like the regular news, Walter Cronkite talking about the villains, or there's the bit in, I guess that's more a Frank Miller thing from the what's name, but there's the X-Men bit where the TV news, Magneto's just tearing apart this area, and it's like, what happened to the X-Men? The X-Men, like basically talking about issue 1. Like, that's the thing that people remember, that X-Men stopped them in issue 1. They don't have all the bits. They just know there was this big thing that happened in Camp Citadel, and the X-Men came and stopped them. And they're like, hey, Magneto's out here. Like, we don't have any other news on the X-Men. We just remember him stopping them in issue 1. Like, that's kind of history where you don't get, like, they don't know. They didn't mention, like, where's Cyclops? Or they didn't even. That's the thing. It's just too much stuff that got on my nerves. But at the same time, maybe it's also something there. I'm saying there's stuff that you could do. I don't know. It's just too soft. I'm just going to say that for the 5th or 6th or 3 millionth time. I hear your points, and your points are valid. And, like, why rock the boat now? You had, how many series? Like 6 or something like that. And you only have one that didn't do as well because you dumbed out and thought you could put it at the same time as Obi-Wan, and she ate her outfit. I can't say the other words. I don't know.
That show could have done well if it needed to decide what it was supposed to be. Is this supposed to be a superhero show, or is this supposed to be a story about a young Pakistani American girl and going through whatever Degrassi Junior High School stuff she's going through at the end of the day? And it was obviously the latter, but the people tuning in are like, okay, what is this? And your best episode is the episode where she appears the least in, and it's a historical drama. It's just all over the place at the end of the day. And the sad thing about it is, I didn't care for the casting, but when I saw her over the course of the episode, I was like, okay, no, she's actually cast pretty well for this role, but there's nothing for her to really do. There's nothing for us to really connect with. There's no cleverness in terms of the powers or the abilities that she has. It's just, hey, I mean, again, if the strongest episode is the episode that you appear the least in, that's a problem. There's no development with her as a character. There's no genuine story. There's no real antagonist. And again, that's what I'm saying. The antagonists are so paper cutout at the end of the day, where you can just blow on them, they disappear. They just go flying off into the air. It's just terrible. So that was the problem that she had, and she still lost out to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan got a ton of criticism. These guys were angry about everything. Oh, look at the set. Look at this. Look, oh, Vader wouldn't fight like that. And the ratings were still off the charts for that show. So, it was just if they had done I don't know. A lot of times I just wonder, what are you guys trying to do here with the show? What's your theme? What is it that you want people to take away from this? With the She-Hulk show, it's obvious from Jump Street what it is that they want to do and what they want people to take away from it. I could not say the same for the majority of these other MCU television shows, and the majority of them, to be honest, were setups for the films that were coming down the pike.
Yes, and you have stated that. Thankfully, have stated that, and most of all of our shows, and I don't think anyone has taken account to that assessment of these shows, which is really the sad part of it. And sometimes it's a setup that doesn't even lead to where we think it's going to lead. We think Scarlet Witch is going to turn a new leaf, maybe learn some stuff. Maybe her kids, whatever they were that she created, were going to be stuck somewhere. No, she's just going to steal them from somewhere else. It's just like, what happened? But no, we still have to deal one last thing to deal with that I think now that I've pulled you away from your, hey, he's like, why are we crying over spilled milk kind of persona? And we got to go to, can you see that? The gag on the internet that's out there now.
Hang on. Let me see this. Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, when I saw that, all I could do was shrug, because I'm like, hey, he made out better than Superman did when he was getting back-fisted by Supergirl on the show. He still made out better than that. But the whole idea that you can knock the Hulk over with the Jeep, it's just ludicrous.
It's a good Jeep.
Hey, I know they make them tough, but
it's like,
what did they say? Built to last 250,000 miles. That engine's going to get you there one way or the other. But see, this goes into what I had said before about they continuously want to punk this character to make the other character look good. Okay, and I hate to keep stressing the male female thing, but that's what it is. They do this too often, with this particular dynamic, and the male character is always expected to take it on the chin, and it's cool, so on and so forth. And the Hulk is in a bad spot because Marvel doesn't have any ownership to anything with him, so they can't do any movies. And the last time that the Hulk actually looked competent in terms of a character was what? Maybe Thor Ragnarok, if not definitely the Hulk movie. Rather, not the Hulk movie, but the Avengers movie. When he comes in, he goes in from being this guy who can one shot, that flying living alien spacecraft, to a dude who's getting knocked over by a Jeep. It's crazy.
I think they, in fixing the Hulk, and I think some of the stuff that Peter David was doing, kind of left it in a way where basically no one could really follow doing that. That's why they were already trying to fix it back to getting him back to, but then, there's kind of a period where they're trying to go both, have him, the MVP, more multiple personalities and this, that, and the other. But there's a thing where the Hulk, from when I guess it's the late 60s to, ultimately up to the Professor Hulk, where up until the Crossroads is the first part where the sales start to tank. It's like you had a character that was very extremely popular in the 70s and almost pushed over Spider-Man out of that spot. And, you got the TV show that worked, that had a lot of heart. And that's one of the things of his character, where you got all this time, because the Hulk, that aspect of what's in the TV show was already kind of, and they changed the whole dynamic of what Bruce Banner was looking into, the loss of his wife. He's looking for this thing, and ultimately it leads to this tragedy where he's basically being blamed for, like the loss of his wife and stuff like that. And then he's, the crime he didn't commit, that sort of thing. They got this little dynamic, but they still had the heart of the character, the heart of the passion that Bruce Banner had in the comic book, the Hulk, where he kind of moved it from where he reacts in anger. He's reacting in anger, finding himself in these predicaments that Bruce Banner puts him in. And then he kind of calms down. And then when right before changing, he's like, I got to get out of here. But, that's one of the things where you lost the dynamic. Where the first movie, I think the hardest part that they had was trying to, not the first movie, because that was, that outside of him being able to leap, kind of missed about. But I guess, they finally started letting the Hulk leap again, because I think the early ones are like, we got to fix this, and we can't have him do what they did in that Ang Lee movie. But the leaping was stuff that I like. I know it's ridiculous. Yes, he'll go right through the floor if he lands in the city. But that's just, no, it's comics. Why can't the Thing leap and the Hulk leap? No, we're not explaining that. It don't have nothing to do with anything. It's just a byproduct of them, Stan Lee and Jack deciding the Hulk could fly, and then Stan Lee saying, no, I don't like that in the same issue. He just has to art correct the rest of it. But it's like, we don't need it explained. Just have him leap. And I think at least they got a bit. But, man, I don't even think I think the Shield wasn't too crazy over the leaping and jumping into towns. But I mean,
Stan said we can't do the leaping because we're going to get sued. So he's like, hey, he said we can't do the flying because we're going to get sued. Same thing with Thor. He's like, no, this guy leaps. This guy's going to spin his hammer and fly, and that sort of stuff. He's like, no. He's like, I already can smell those guys over at National. They'll be down our necks in a second, saying, hey, what the hell?
All right.
He's like, you ever heard of Captain Marvel? Yeah, that's right. You never heard of Captain Marvel because we sued the hell out of those dudes. You better make it.
All right. So we got this thing. We got this show. We got Hulk leaping again. We got She-Hulk that didn't do that much leaping, but she's leaping she left from time to time, not as much as the Hulk. And then, we had, what else did we have? We had good in the lead. Hopefully they're going to turn it into superpowered court thing that's going on. But I wouldn't give up doing the regular courtroom that quickly. But I mean, this is the Marvel freight train. We can't stop it. It's not going to get off the due characterization. It's got to move.
They will do every single working girl trophy and convention that we have ever seen. They will do all of the female lead stuff where the guys are going to be, the guys are either going to be stupid, or corrupt or what have you. I'll bet you any amount of money that the main villain is going to be a dude. So, we got that going, and we should just take it, accept it.
I don't like the. I'm not talking pause, not taking. And no, the Marvel universe giving us what they think we should have.
Sometimes in life it's just inescapable. At least this time they're giving us some lube, So
oh my gosh, Lord. Anyway, this is a curtain call. You got some more for this?
The whole TV show was pretty good. That episode where he had caught that dude who was the Hulk too, it was a two-parter. That was great. It was fun. And it lasted 4 seasons. But the one thing I remember when the comics started to flounder, what they wanted to do was they wanted to try to evoke more of what worked on the Hulk TV show. And I said, that has to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The Hulk TV show was evoking what they got from the comics, but they had a budget. They couldn't have them fighting the Bi-Beast and all these really superpowered dudes. They said, you guys are trying to evoke yourselves. That's how lost they were at the end of the day. And then you had all that internal strife between, is he going to be smart? Is he going to be this? And I was just making like he was in those first few issues, and he should be fine. He doesn't have to be completely dumb, but he doesn't have to be Bruce Banner with the, working test tubes either. The She-Hulk, I mean, the longest and the best run was that sensational She-Hulk. I don't care what these guys are trying to say. The Dan Slott's run was the better run, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Dan Slott, Mr. Christos Gage is half my brain. Dan Slott.
Well, no, there's an early one who was actually working, trying to make his bones, and then the guy who got on Spider-Man, and then he got the. No, I guess he worked. I mean, he did work to get there. Even though I would go as far. I'm not sure if he did do the. There's so many She-Hulk runs at that period. It's kind of hard to say. There's moments that were okay in stuff he did. I can't give it as many. I can't give it as many because they were trying to do like let's have some fun with it. I guess it's like what we see here, but it was like he would do. He used to be able. It's like he would know. He went further than Jeff Johns down the bad sort of.
Dan Slott presaged the Me Too movement with that the trial of Star Fox. With that trial of Star Fox,
Yeah, that was in there. Yeah, that kind of kills anything or bring up his run as anything. Yep, you did it. I can't. I tried the best I could. I remember it being okay, but then he also did that idiocy. So yeah, there you go.
We're gonna come in here. We're gonna cast all these allegations, and then we're gonna have no resolution to this whatsoever at the end of the day. So this was all for nothing. It was real life before any of this stuff happened. It's all allegations. Can we prove anything? No. So, but this guy probably is maybe that type of nonsense. But if they can keep in with the sensational She-Hulk run, I mean, they can't do all of the issues, but if they can keep with that sensational She-Hulk run, which was, pretty, I think you'll have enough male viewership for the show to be steady, and they'll definitely get the female viewership that they're driving for because they're signaling that from start, and you might get a couple of seasons. You might get a couple of seasons out of this.
Yeah. So we have a She-Hulk. It's on film and it's on TV along with all the other Marvel stuff. The Hulk is her supporting character now.
Yeah, but we knew that was we knew that was going to happen.
Hulk can't. They will not outside of whatever they did. One Hulk thing, and it was at least connected. I don't care that you don't own the stuff. You're already making a ton of money. Just like the same way you were doing with Spider-Man. Well, no, ultimately they're in the wrong hands, so I can't. They already decided that they don't know what to do with the Hulk outside of him being the strongest one there is sometimes. But
they dropped the ball with him when they let Thanos wreck him.
I don't mind that. I just don't think that they know what to do after that point. I mean,
you can't let a character like the Hulk get wrecked by Thanos. And then there's no response to it. It's physics. There's supposed to be an equal and opposing reaction to it. He never got to fight Thanos again. And then he never did anything else. The biggest thing he did was, okay, I'm going to be the nutty professor. And then I'm going to hold up, I snapped my fingers, but my arm went bad. And then I'm going to hold up Avengers thing. But those things never really count in terms of what this guy's supposed to be doing. The whole, I'm going to hold the world on my shoulders feet. You got wrecked. Okay, and you're supposed to. They set him up as like the trump card. Like, well, we've got a Hulk. They wouldn't say that about Thor. We've got a Hulk at the end of the day. We're gonna unleash this dude, and he's just gonna wreck shop, break everything, and he gets his ass handed to him by Thanos, which is fine. Okay, but then you don't give him a chance to get back, and he's never gotten back from that. And what was worse, I thought he got wrecked because Thanos had the Power Stone, only to find out he didn't have the Power Stone. So I was just like, okay. And where is he now? Now he's over here doing yoga with She-Hulk, and she's outclassing him. He's getting hit by a Jeep, under rocks. You got to do something with that because you have a viable character there, and you showed that he works. He's a supporting character because you can't put him as a lead in any of the films, but you showed that you can do a bunch of stuff with him. And, then it's like, hey, no, we're not going to do that. This guy's going to come over here and, he's going to be the light version of what we can do. So those type of, we're probably going to see him throughout the series, but he's probably going to poke his head in here and there. No pun intended. So, we'll see how that goes with him. But look, this is straight junk food, man. This is Haagen-Dazs. This is Haagen-Dazs with a nice little hard layer of dark chocolate ice cream on the top to start you off. Okay, you know, little cookie bits all through. It's junk food. Period. So, who doesn't like junk food?
All right, so I guess this is I guess I'll watch it. We'll see how it goes. We know it's not going to change too much, but let's see how it goes. Spinner Rack
Out.
out later.